This portion of New Day Northwest is sponsored by Northwest Hair Restoration.
Welcome back to New Day. Hair loss can affect both men and women and often affects the way people feel about themselves. The doctors at Northwest Hair Restoration specialize in minimally invasive and non-surgical treatments to help. So here with some groundbreaking approaches, please welcome from Northwest Hair Restoration, Dr. Bob Niedbalski. It's good to see you. How you doing? Nice head of hair, by the way.
Thank you.
You're a good example of that. What are some of the causes of hair loss and some reasons why people might consider hair restoration?
Well, the most common reason is going to be hereditary. So probably 85 or 90% of the people that we see, their hair loss is primarily caused by heredity.
Right.
But some people have other causes that are from scalp diseases. Probably a real common one is called alopecia areata,
Right.
where you get patches of hair loss, and that can also be treated. So depending on the cause, and it's important to establish that before a treatment's decided on, then we will go ahead and figure that out first and then move forward with some sort of
obviously
treatment plan.
women suffer from this problem as well as men, though we think about it typically.
Yeah,
affecting men.
the interesting part is that for women it's a little bit more difficult sometimes. With men, you can recognize, everybody here would know what male pattern hair loss looks like as you see it every day. For women, the pattern of hair loss that's hereditary can also be mimicked by things like thyroid disease or other scalp problems that can cause that. So there's a little more investigation that needs to occur before we treat. Yeah.
So what are the options? What can you do about this?
So it depends on where on the spectrum of hair loss that you're coming in, and so our goal is to try and encourage people to come in a little bit sooner. The earlier you come in for intervention, then the better the treatment options tend to perform. So initially, things like minoxidil or Rogaine, people are familiar with that. There's medications like finasteride, also called Propecia. There's laser therapies, light therapy that can be helpful. They're sort of limited in their scope, and really what they're able to do more often than not is probably help prevent or minimize the loss. So
Right.
they're not as good as at restoring the hair. So I think in our profession, in our group here, what we like to do is we want to protect the hair you have. We want to renew the hair that's compromised, and if there's any restoration to be done, then there's things that we can do for that as well.
Which are?
Sometimes, the non-medical or non-surgical treatments can be restorative, but most of the time restoration involves some hair transplant
Been
work
doing
too.
that.
Right.
Okay. You're involved in a clinical trial now, and I wondered if you'd explain what that's about.
So this clinical trial involves the use of your own stem cells that we get from adipose or fat tissue, which turns out to be an excellent reservoir for stem cells. So we combine those stem cells and we concentrate them and mix that with something called PRP, which is a platelet-rich plasma that comes from your own blood. And we inject that into the scalp, and it stimulates these hair follicles that are compromised to start regrowing again.
And how well is that seeming to work?
Well, we're just getting the study underway at this point in time. There's 4 different centers that are being across the country. They're going to be participating in this. And this is an extension of what we've been doing with our A-cell and PRP treatment. I think we mentioned maybe in our last appearance on the show, but it's a more biologically active treatment and therapy. So preliminary research that has already demonstrated that this is effective for hair loss,
Right.
and we're just going to take it the next step and improve the process.
Well, that's exciting. Let's take a look at some of the before and after pictures that you gave to us and tell us a little bit about what's happening here.
So this is a 40-year-old male that's just treated with using minoxidil every day for several years. And we treated him with A-cell and PRP. So this is a scalp injection. It takes about an hour and a half in the office, and there's no real recovery from that, so you can go on to your normal activities right afterwards.
And since it's localized, we're not growing hair everywhere, just where you want it, right?
It's just stimulating the hair follicles that are there to start growing better. If there's any gardeners out there, it's like fertilizing your plants and making them grow healthier, so they're more lush.
Makes sense. Okay.
So this is a hair restoration surgery. So now we've transplanted hair from the sides and back of the scalp and moved those hair follicles up into the front. And of course, the design aspect's really important. You want to make sure that when those are placed in there, same thing with this photo, that they're done in a way that will look just like the rest of the hair does, so it looks natural.
And what's the recovery time for this?
Well, usually 4 or 5 days afterwards, so that you
good.
can go back to your normal activities.
Alrighty.
So this one is A-cell and PRP again. The injection therapy for women is probably a more common treatment form. Because their hair loss tends to be a little bit more diffuse, a little bit of hair loss everywhere.
Right, so thinning hair all over.
Right.
Okay.
And this is a hair restoration surgery. So this is somebody who's had previous facial cosmetic surgery, and her hairline crept back as a result of that. So we restored the integrity of the temples and the sideburns and so forth. So that's a common thing that happens from women that have had facelift surgery. Another female who had just diffuse hair loss and where her scalp was showing all the way through, and so we did a transplant on her, and she will have a follow-up procedure. So that's like putting on a second coat of paint, if you will, so they can get to their desired level of hair thickness.
That's amazing. So you'll be with us in a little bit on our panel, right? We'll be back in just a moment. Northwest Hair Restoration has a special offer. Just mention New Day to receive a $250 credit toward care. And for more information, just visit the website on your screen. Again, we'll link you to that from ours as well. Coming up next, Dr. Niedbalski will join our wellness panel with everybody else after a quick break for your questions. Thank you.